He takes a second, he peeks in the bathroom, and sure enough, there's this tub, and it's just totally covered in what is undoubtedly blood. I mean, it's just this dark red stains, and there's still fresh droplets, and it is blood. There's no doubt about what it is.
So, once again you found yourself at the campsite of the Orator. Well, please, pull up a chair. As you can see, my fire is stoked, which means tonight I have another tale to tell. But before we begin, if you find yourself enjoying this kind of content, first-hand accounts of the supernatural, paranormal, things that go bump in the night, then allow the spirits to guide your play and chat to both the like and subscribe button as well as the notification bell. That way you get notified every time I upload new content, and it allows me to continue to do what I love, which is telling terrifying tales. Second, all of my stories are first-hand accounts of the true supernatural and paranormal. Today's story comes from us from Redditor Death Turkey. I will make sure to link the original story below. But if you or anybody you know has a true first-hand account of something supernatural or paranormal that might fit well on my channel, please reach out to me on any of my social media. We'll find a time to get together, collect your story, and hopefully feature it one day here on the Orator. And now, with all of that out of the way, let's get on to today's tale. It is a story that I call The Town. So it is the summer of 2012. Cassidy is 13 years old, and he and his family do kind of an annual trip from Oklahoma to Washington State in the United States, and then back from Washington to Oklahoma again, which is where they live. And they do this every single year, and they are coming back from Washington to Oklahoma. So this is a trip that they're pretty familiar with, but they don't always necessarily take the same route. And this year, there are two different vehicles traveling. It's really late at night, and in one vehicle, the SUV, is Cassidy's mom, Cassidy, who is at this time 13 years old, and he has a younger sister who is 10 years old, and she's also with them. And then in a separate car, there's Cassidy's older brother, who's in his early 20s, and his then girlfriend, she's now his wife, and they're in their own car following, basically. And so they are traveling in the middle of the night down this really long road, and basically it's one straight road and surrounded on both sides by deep, thick forest. And they've been driving for a really, really long time, and it's kind of getting to the point where they're thinking it's time to maybe sleep for the night before continuing the next day on the rest of their trip home. And all of a sudden, as if to corroborate this, there's a phone call on Cassidy's mom's phone. She picks it up, and it's, her son, Cassidy's brother, in the other vehicle, and he says, "Hey, listen, I'm getting really, really tired, and my girlfriend's actually asleep already, so I don't really want to wake her up and switch and have her drive, especially because I feel like it's getting late enough to where we're going to have to pull over anyway. Can we maybe stop at the next town? And, this is where we camp for the night." And his mom said, the next town is maybe only 10 miles away, something like that. So, yeah, sure, that sounds good. We'll get there and stop. But as she's saying that, there are these lights out in front of them that appear, based off of the size of them, to be a town. And they're way closer than 10 miles away. And so while she's on the phone with him, she's like, "Hey, hang on. I see something up ahead. Maybe this could be a town, and we could stop there instead." Now, this is all the way back in, like I said, 2012. And this is before GPS was as modern as it is now. So most GPS now, it's right on your smartphone. It's updated constantly, both by satellites, and they have vehicles that roam around and map all of the new territories and roads and towns and all of that. But back in 2012, that wasn't necessarily the case. You had these old standalone GPSs that would plug into your car. They weren't attached to your phone or anything. And they were always updated via satellite, but they would have to, you'd have to plug it in and download a lot of these updates a lot of times, or you'd have to wait for them to update. And because of that, oftentimes there were things like roads or buildings or even small towns that were not on the GPS yet because it just hadn't updated in that area yet. And so it's not that surprising that there's a new town, but a little weird because they had come this way several times. It didn't seem like they had been putting anything together, and so it was a little bizarre, but whatever. They're there and they need to sleep. So she says, yeah, this looks like a town. Let's go. So they start pulling into this town, and as soon as they start pulling into this town, Cassidy is getting this weird feeling. He almost feels like maybe they're being watched, or I don't know. It's like it's almost like this anxiety-inducing feeling. The hairs on his arms are standing up. He's getting goose flesh, and he remembers they pass by the sign that like welcomes them to the town, and it was almost like the moment they passed that sign, it was like almost a barrier. The moment they passed it, that's when it was just instantaneously went from being totally fine to something just seems weird and off. And that by itself maybe would have been fine, but there were also these other really weird phenomenon in this town. As they're driving through this town, Cassidy's noticing that it's totally empty. There are no people walking around, which, it's the middle of the night, so maybe not that weird, but there are also no cars parked anywhere. And there are all the street lights are on, and some of the lights are on over shops and stuff like that, but none of the actual shop lights are on. And all of the street lights and the shop lights that are shining down, they're all this really weird kind of orange, yellow tinge that just sort of feels haunting and gross and sort of dirty to Cassidy. And he's sort of getting the sense by looking at his mom and his sister that they're sort of feeling the same way. It's just sort of this eerie, weird feeling. And he's noticing it's completely clean. There's no trash or litter. There's no graffiti or anything anywhere. All the shops look pristine. But it's just so completely empty. Like nothing is there. There are no people. There's no movement. There are no creatures. There's no animals. There's nothing. And so it's just this very weird feeling. But his mom sees this church sort of up on a hill that overlooks the whole town, and so she turns and she takes the road up to this church. They pull into the parking lot. She turns the vehicle off. They get out. His brother pulls in beside them. They get out, and they're just sort of stretching their legs and taking a moment to figure out what is their next step. And so, they're discussing, all right, I guess we're going to have to go and find a hotel in this town, but it's, this town wasn't even on our GPS, so how are we going to do that? And so Cassidy's mom is discussing things with Cassidy's older brother on ways to figure out where to go next. Are they just going to survey the town and figure it out? And meanwhile, Cassidy is sort of just walking around the parking lot, stretching his legs. He's been in the car for several hours now. And as he walks around his mom's SUV, all the way off in the other side of this parking lot where this light barely even reaches, he sees something move behind this dumpster. Something big move behind this dumpster. And it's too dark to make out what it is, but he instantly gets this creepy feeling from it. Something doesn't seem right at all. And so he's on high alert, and his mom and brother heard it too. And so all of a sudden the mom says, you know what? Something's weird here. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm getting kind of a weird feeling. Everybody get back in the car. We're going to figure this out. And so everybody gets in the car. Cassie's brother takes a minute and figures out if you search on the GPS for specific things like gas station, motel, restaurant, it does start pulling up stuff in their little area of this town. And so he types in hotel, and sure enough, one pops up, and it's all the way across the town on the other side of the town, but there it is. And so, great, they all pile into their respective vehicles. Cassie's mom turns on the SUV, and they pull out of this parking lot, and he kind of does one quick look over his shoulder, can't quite see anything back by the dumpster, but man, is that feeling still there. All the same feelings of being watched and how creepy everything is. And, as they're leaving, he looks back and he realizes this church had like this nice, soft, white glow of a light, and now they're re-entering this town, and none of the lights look like that. They're still the same weird, sickly, orangish yellow. And so they're slowly making their way through the town, and the entire time they go through this town, they still don't see any people or cars or open shops or anything like that. It's like this place has been abandoned or something weird. And eventually, they turn off of the main road onto this weird dirt road that takes them sort of the outskirts of this town, and then it sort of goes downhill into this open sort of valley, and in this sort of concave valley area, completely surrounded by forest on all sides, is this motel. And it's just an L-shaped motel, pretty small, maybe fits like 30, 40 rooms. And then there's a separate building that's right next to it that's sort of the welcoming area in the lobby. And so they pull up to that area, and the motel and all the lighting and stuff like that is the same thing. Real sickly, yellow, gross lighting. And they pull up, and even though this small lobby building where you check in is little, the whole front is paned in glass, and so they can see inside really well, and the lobby is well lit, and there is somebody behind the counter. And so Cassidy's mom, she gets out, and she goes inside to check in and get them rooms. And while she's inside, Cassidy's just sort of watching her communicate with this person and get their rooms, and the person she's talking to rubs Cassidy the wrong way. He's this just really old, tall-looking, thin, frail, grumpy-looking old man. He's got sunken-in skin and loose skin all over, and his eyes are sunken in and dark, and he just doesn't look like he's happy to be there. And so Cassidy gets kind of a weird vibe from him. Now, Cassidy wouldn't find this out till later, after discussing things with his sister and brother. But one other strange thing happened when they were all watching their mom. Later on, when they were discussing it, Cassidy mentioned how creepy this old man looked. And Cassidy's sister said, "That's weird that you say that, because the person that I saw her talking to was not an old man at all. It was a really young guy, maybe like late teens, early 20s at most. And he looked kind of nervous, but also like he really didn't want to be there. Like he had kind of an attitude about him." And then Cassidy's brother said, "Well, that's weird that you say that, because the person that I saw was a middle-aged guy. He was probably in his 30s, maybe even early 40s. He had black hair and a big beard, and neither the other two people had a beard that Cassidy saw or his sister saw." And so it's like they were all watching through the window. Completely lit lobby, watch their mom walk up to the counter, have a conversation with one person, but they all saw different people. But Cassie didn't even find that out till later. So his mom comes outside, and he thinks that she talked to just this old man. She comes out, she's got the room, she says, "All right, follow me." She gets back in the SUV and drives around to their room. Brother follows. They park next to each other. They have, rooms that are adjacent to each other. And it's just like the vehicles. Cassidy, his mom, and his sister go into one room with two beds, and his brother and his girlfriend go into their own room that are, like I said, they're adjoined. They're right next to each other. And as soon as they get in, Cassie's mom just says, "Everybody, only bring in essentials. We're going to sleep. And then as soon as everybody feels ready, we're getting the heck out of here. This whole town feels weird. We don't want to be here. There's just this weird vibe. We need to get out of here as quick as we can, but we do need to sleep." So, Cassidy's sister, she decides she needs to take a shower. And so as Cassie is sort of unpacking his essentials, his phone charger, toothbrush, things like that, she goes in to take a shower. And after maybe 30 seconds or so, she comes out and she says, "Hey, I can't figure this shower out. I'm turning all the knobs. It doesn't seem to be working right." So Cassidy's mom goes in to help her. And then about 10, 15 seconds after that, she comes out and she says, "Well, it just appears as though the water doesn't work in our room." So she calls up Cassidy's brother. She says, "Can you come get your sister and bring her to your room and see if your guys' shower works?" He says, "Yeah, of course." And so he comes over. He grabs her sister. They go over to his room. And while they're over there, Cassie is kind of talking to, his mom, and they're just looking down at these beds. And they're both getting the same feeling. This is just gross. These beds look greasy and old and just disheveled, and I don't feel like sleeping in them. And literally, Cassie's mom, they're just, at this point, they're just sort of staring at the beds, and she looks at him and she says, "You don't want to stay here either, do you?" And he says, "I would rather just get in the car and go. This is, there's something weird. I don't like this." And then, as if to verify, Cassie's brother comes busting into the room. And Cassie immediately can tell that his brother is, panicked about something, even though he's trying to outwardly be calm. And he just says to his mom, "Hey, can you come here for a minute? I got to show you something. Cassidy, stop unpacking, pack everything back up. I think we're going to head out." Cassie's like, "Yeah, we were kind of already thinking that." So he takes mom, they go to the room next door. Cassidy is packing everything up and making sure everything is good. And while he's doing that, his sister comes back in. He's like, hey, what the heck is going on next door? Why did our brother come in? He was being weird. She's like, dude, I went to take a shower over there, and when I looked in, the bath was covered in blood. She's like, it had to have been blood. I don't know what else it could have been. And Cassie's like, what the heck? That's like, he didn't know what to expect. That was really weird. And so, his mom comes back and she's like freaked out. She's like, all right, no, pack everything up, let's go. Well, Cassidy had already packed everything. So while everybody else was gathering all of their stuff, he went over to his brother's room and he did it on the pretext of being able to help his brother pack and get them out of there quicker. But really, he just wanted to see this tub. And so he takes a second, he peeks in the bathroom, and sure enough, there's this tub. And it's just totally covered in what is undoubtedly blood. I mean, it's just this dark red stains, and there's still fresh droplets, and it is blood. There's no doubt about what it is. And so, they all right away, they go out, they get in their vehicles, they're like, we're leaving. There's this minor argument between Cassidy's mom and his brother about getting a refund, and his mom's just like, we're not getting a refund. We're not stopping. We need to get the heck out of here. Something weird's going on. I don't like it. We need to leave this town. And they're like, yeah, you're right. So they get in, they start up their vehicles, they're just getting ready to pull out, when all of a sudden Cassidy's brother signals to his mom and says, Mom, I didn't realize this, but I'm like out of gas. I'm not going to make it across this town and the 10 miles to the next town. We need to stop while we're in this town and get gas. I know that sucks. I know it's weird, but we need to. So, all right. So, once again, they look in their GPS for a gas station, and luckily, this gas station is across town, but it's where they need to go, on the way out of this town and to the next town. So, all right, great. Let's get in. We'll get the heck out of here. We'll stop and get gas, but we'll be on the way. So, they're already in their vehicles. They start up. They head out. They're going back across town. Exact same concept. Totally dead. Not a soul in sight. There's no vehicles, no people, no trash, nothing. It's like this town was built and then nobody ended up moving in or something, even though it is clearly showing all of the signs of use. I mean, there are these shops that are up with signs on them that are lit. It's just that nobody's here. And so they eventually make it all the way across town to this gas station, and it's the same concept. This gas station, it's got the parking lot, but then all around it, it's surrounded by trees. It's like this whole town is surrounded by forest on all sides. And so they pull in, and, Cassidy's brother, he pulls up to a pump to pump gas. They pull up right next to him, even though they don't need gas in their SUV. They want to stick together. And so Cassidy's brother, he starts pumping gas in his car. Meanwhile, Cassidy, his sister, and his mom, they go in the store for like snacks and drinks and stuff like that. And, Cassidy's, his brother's girlfriend, she's still just sitting in their car. So they go in, they get snacks and drinks. There is a person working there. Nothing seems that weird. Cassidy's brother finishes pumping gas, and he comes in, and he's also going to get, drinks and stuff like that. And so Cassidy stays in the store with his brother while his sister and mom leave and go back into the SUV. And then once they're done with their drinks and their snacks, they come out. And while they're walking through the parking lot, they're just sort of joking with each other, trying to keep things lighthearted. I mean, the mood is really weird. Everybody feels really strange about how odd the town is. But they're trying to kind of keep that feeling at bay just by relaxing and having a good conversation, when all of a sudden, they both see something skitter across the parking lot. And they're looking at each other, so it's out of their peripheral vision, so they don't really see what it is, but they see that it is run behind this big shed that's at the very back of the parking lot. They can really only kind of make out the outline of the shed because it's just at the very back where the light barely reaches, and then beyond that is all forest, so there's no lighting coming from behind, but they see this shed. It's maybe like 8-9 feet tall, and it's probably like a storage shed or something like that. But as they're looking at it, they see these two other huge things crawl behind there really fast, like too fast for them to make out what it was, but they were big. And so all of a sudden the hackles on both of their necks stand up. They're like, we need to get out of here. And as they're kind of looking at the shed, all of a sudden, like I said, this shed's like 8-9 feet tall. All of a sudden from behind it, these things stand up, and they're literally taller than the shed. Not just a little bit taller, but they're towering over this shed, like 12 feet tall. And there are 3 of them. And they're just these vague black outlines that Cassidy can't really see. The light doesn't quite reach him, but what he remembers most is that these things had these, like, they're almost like animal eyes. They were reflective in the light, kind of like that, but they were bright gold. And while all three of them were looking in the direction of Cassidy and his brother, there was one of them that was looking right at Cassidy, right in his eyes. And not just looking at him, but looking through him. Like it could see every inch of him and was judging him. Like it was like it was looking at him, and he said it felt like he was being judged, like his very soul was being judged by this thing. And it just literally froze him in his tracks. And his body got cold. He felt like his veins were getting icy, and he felt almost like a trance, like he was being drawn into it. And he's just standing there, totally in fright, mouth agape, doesn't know what to do. When all of a sudden his brother says, "Dude, we gotta go now." And he shakes him and kind of wakes him out of his stupor and says, we gotta go now. And they're like, yeah. So right away they run, they jump into their respective vehicles, they're like, we gotta go now. And his mom didn't see anything, but Cassidy's sister said she saw it too. And she's like, Mom, we gotta go right now. Something weird is going on. We gotta go now. And so right away they all peel out of the gas station, they fly through the rest of the town, they get back onto their main road. And luckily, the feeling right away dissipated. Everything felt normal again. And they go the 10 miles to the next town, which is there and normal. And it's what everybody expected. And it's just a totally normal town. And they get to the Holiday Inn, the first motel that they come across. And they all check in and they go to sleep right away. And then the next morning they wake up and they just kind of come out and they sit down. And they spend about an hour just discussing the oddities that they saw in this really weird town. That's when Cassidy found out that his brother and sister had seen completely different people through the window. And as they're discussing this stuff, they're all like, what was the name of that town that we went through? And Cassidy's mom said, you know what? I actually wrote it down. Hang on. So she goes to find it, and the paper's gone. Now, they had all seen the sign, and they all even remembered that they had said the name of the town out loud, like to themselves or in their heads or whatever. They all knew that they had seen the name. But none of them could remember it. The paper was gone. And then they go to look for it. They look on maps. They look on their GPS. They even ask locals, like, hey, what is that new town over there? What's going on over there? And it's like this town was gone. Everybody said, it's not there. I don't know what you're talking about. There is no town over there. It wasn't on their GPS. It wasn't on any of their maps. It's like this town didn't actually exist. And as odd as that was, it's like Cassidy, his mom, his brother, all of them, they didn't want to go back and check. It was like, it was a weird mystery better left alone. And so Cassidy says, they still, to this day, over a decade later, still discuss the strangeness that is this town that just does not exist. It's still, to this day, they've looked it up on modern maps and everything. That town is not there. And there's nothing there. It's just all woods. And they have no explanation as to how they ended up there or what it was or any of the bizarre anomalies. And he said, his family, they still do these trips, but they always take an alternate route. And so that's going to do it for today's story. If you found yourself enjoying this story or any of the other ones on my channel, then please allow the spirits to guide your planchette to both the like and subscribe button as well as the notification bell. That way you get notified every time I upload new content. And it allows me to continue to do what I love, which is telling terrifying tales. Second, all of my stories are first-hand, true accounts of the supernatural and paranormal. I will link today's story below. But if you or anybody you know would like your story featured here on The Orator, please reach out to me on any of my social media. We'll find a time to get together, collect your story, and hopefully feature it one day here on The Orator. And so until next time, where you will pull up your chair, my fire will be stoked. And I will have another tale to tell.